Hello and welcome to the Outdoorsy Educator Podcast, a place for conversation about travel, adventure, life lessons, and making the most out of each and every day. I'm your host, Alistair Green, and each week I will have a conversation with someone who will not only inspire us all, but give us an insight into living life to its fullest. But before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor, Whole Earth Provision Company. Since 1970, Whole Earth Provision Company has been the Texas outfitter for side quests big and small. Whether you're gearing up for the open road, chasing a trailhead, or hunting for that just right gift, they have got you covered. Think durable clothing, shoes that will actually go the distance, gear that's road trip ready, and books, puzzles, and toys that will spark wonder at every age. You'll find Whole Earth in Dallas, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio, or anytime online at wholeearthprovision.com. And hey, because you're rolling with the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, here's a little extra love. Use the code OutdoorsyyEDU for 20% off your next adventure at Whole Earth. Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoorsy Educator Podcast. Today's guest is proof that life's greatest adventures begin when you pack your bags and never stop exploring. Oli Pettigrew has visited and worked in over 50 countries, graced magazine covers and screens the world over, but particularly in Asia as the face of many hit shows like Lonely Planet and Cash Cab, making curiosity his compass. But after years of jet setting, he's traded tuk-tuks for pickup trucks and the neon city lights of Singapore for the Texas stars. He's now known far and wide as That Englishman in Texas, embracing barbecue, cowboy boots, and the wide-open Lone Star lifestyle with all the charm of, well, an Englishman abroad. From London to Singapore, from Bangkok to Austin, Oli Pettigrew is a true global citizen who somehow found his home deep in the heart of Texas. And trust me, if you've ever wondered what happens when dry English wit meets Southern hospitality, you are about to find out. Well, on today's episode of the Outdoorsy Educator, we welcome a man you may know better as That Englishman in Texas, Oli Pettigrew. Oli, how are you today?
Great, mate.
Great.
Honestly, we just pressed record now because we've been chatting for like 15 minutes.
Right.
About all sorts of cool stuff. We've already made friends.
We're good friends, and hopefully we'll remember some of it for the pod. But I could have sat and talked for hours before hitting the record button. So have to try and be disciplined and hit the button. But you're doing well, are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, mate. Yeah, it's been such a mild summer in Texas, and Texans keep saying, Ollie, stop jinxing it. But I'm like, guys, it's almost September. We haven't even had any dog days. I was walking outside and my grass is still grass. Usually it sounds like you're walking on cornflakes, snap, crackle, and pop. And it's absolutely bonkers. So I'm having a great time. Been a good day today.
Good. Yeah, I am beyond excited. I do a lot of camping, a lot of hiking, but I just can't do it in the summer. It's too hot.
Yeah.
And next Thursday and next Friday, it's going to drop about 10 or 15 degrees where I am. I think you're in central Texas somewhere,
Yes,
right?
yeah, just south of Waco.
Okay, I know. Yeah, and I'm 150 miles farther north, so just
So
a
just
little
down the
cooler.
road. Yeah.
Down the road in Texas town.
By Texas terms.
A day trip, no problem. So I'm beyond excited about starting to book some camping trips and
I'll
days
tell you what,
away.
actually, I mean, it's probably controversial for That Englishman in Texas to say so, but I lived in Arizona for 8 years.
Right.
Phenomenal camping there, because what's so cool about Arizona is like 40% of the state is federal land, and you can just go use it. Whereas like in Texas, I was looking up, it's below 2%. Everything is privately owned. You can't camp anywhere. They'll shoot you. So like, you go to Arizona, it's hot as balls down where we lived in Phoenix. But my buddy and I, Nick, when I was shooting a TV show there, we would escape during COVID and we'd go up to the Mogollon Rim, or we'd go into this federal land in Strawberry and Pine, or near the Grand Canyon and stuff. And we had an awesome off-roader and a great camping rig, and we just go glamping. like, but we're glamping on the side of a cliff, you know. So he's just got all the bells and whistles. We're sleeping in a tent, but he's like, all right, tonight steaks and lobster. Sounds great, mate.
Right. Yeah, it's just camping. Just camping. We'll go with glamping.
It's so cool. I mean, there's some fantastic memories. But yeah, I know I've always loved camping. My dad, one of my earliest memories is being like 4 or 5 in Hong Kong and camping, like, you know, with my dad, and then camping up in Yorkshire when we lived in the UK. And like, even here, like when it's spring break, we'd go out sort of camping by the lake with my wife's family and stuff. I've always enjoyed camping. I think it's great fun.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, we're very fortunate to live. There's a really nice state park, maybe 10 miles away. So we're up there quite a lot on Friday nights. Enjoy it, unwind from the week. We're back home mid-morning on Saturday. We've still got the whole weekend to do whatever it is we need to do.
So do you do your camping Texas style? Have you got like an RV? Have you got like a camper, or do you throw up the tent?
I do not. So I have modified. I've got an old Ford Explorer, and I've built a queen size bed in the back with drawers underneath and store stuff on the top, and I've done it in the cheapest way possible.
Right.
You know, the old expression that the copper wire was invented by 2 Scotsmen fighting over a penny. You know, I'm not going to spend a lot of money.
I'm going to write that one down. There we go.
Yeah, that's so I built it myself with scrap wood. I'll send you some pictures of it later, but it's my home on wheels.
That's awesome. I used to see people doing that stuff all the time when I did this TV show called Right This Minute, and it was all sort of like, funny enough, people like me. It's like creators and people like doing videos, all sorts of interesting things. And I was always so amazed and fascinated by watching those videos of people taking an old school bus, an old van or whatever. And like you're saying, building it out and then just hitting the road. Because that's always something I wanted to do, is just, you know, I've already told Mrs. I'm like, come on, man, let's sell it all, live out of a van for like a couple of years. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. We've had the same conversations here, and my wife is always, I need somewhere to put a Christmas tree. That's one of her requirements. There was a show, I don't know if it's still on, and the name will come back to me later on, but it was based actually in Austin. And it was a company that did that. You know, people would pull up with their old work vans and a budget and say, I want to live out this van. What can you do?
Oh, man, it sounds like Pimp My Ride, but better.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, you know, it's all just big guys with huge beards kind of going, all right, let's knock something together. You know, and I swear they were working out of like a storage locker. The name will come back to me, but
sounds
I'm all about it.
Like you again, before we started recording, we were talking TV shows and stuff, and he's like, it sounds like The Last Overland as well. All these shows, like, we've got the same taste in TV, man.
Without a doubt. I'm going to rewatch this it's on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon. Because it was on Channel 4 back home. You know, it was made by a couple of English guys. Cannot write. I've literally bought the book this morning, The First Overland, which was written in the 50s about the journey they took.
Honestly, it sounds like something my grandfather did, because he was based in India, so he was like serving back in the, he was even in the Indian Army, right. And he was telling a story about how he drove back, so he traveled back to visit my grandmother in England, and like there was part that he's on the train, so he's got like a Gurkha guard or a guard with him that's like armed to the teeth, but it's also his like guy that brings him tea in the morning and stuff like that.
Right.
He's got grenades with the pins pulled out, but there's part where they're driving across this desert in an old sort of Hillman, I believe, and my grandfather's telling a story about how his man is on the front because they had such a weird carburetor that the man had to sort of tickle the carburetor to keep the engine going while they're driving hundreds of miles across this desert. And I was just like, I think that's where I probably got my adventurous spirit from, is like the stories from my grandfather and my dad and stuff like that. That I'm like, oh, that sounds like a laugh. I'll go do that.
Right. Well, on that note, why don't you tell us a little bit about, you know, where were you born? Where did The Englishman in Texas start off? Where'd you come from?
It's the hardest story to tell people because they're always like, whereabouts in England are you from? And I go, Hong Kong. And they go, what? So like my whole family is just, the whole history of my family is the British Empire, basically. So, you know, my children were born in Singapore when I was living there. I was born in Hong Kong, as were my brothers and my half sister. So we're all born in Hong Kong during British rule. My dad was born in an army tent in 47 in Delhi during the Delhi riots at the time when the Brits were splitting off and going, hey, everybody, you go up to Pakistan, right? And you guys, the Hindus, you stay down in India and everybody get on. Yeah? Is that cool? Yeah. Worked out really well. Then my grandfather was born in Persia. right around the time when the Brits went, hey, Iran, Iraq, Shia, Sunnis, like, hey, everybody, we're just going to split off into countries and everyone's going to get on, right? Yeah, that didn't work out quite so well either.
Yes.
And then, like, my great-grandfather died as a prisoner of war there. He was born in Russia. So, like, my history is very, very international. But I did, at the age of 6, move to the UK.
Right.
And we lived not far from Guildford, a little East Horsley, a little village called East Horsley in the British sort of like country. Very nice.
Essex, Guildford?
No, down in Surrey.
Oh, Sorry. I'm thinking of somewhere else. Sorry. No.
Yeah, it's jolly
Yes.
good. And then from there, I was in the UK until 18. So I went to boarding school in the UK. I went to Cranleigh, which was, again, it looked like Hogwarts, but just less magic.
Right.
And more nouveau riche. And then at 18, I ended up going on a gap year. And at that point, running up to 18, my plan had always been to join the RAF. I wanted to fly fast jets for the RAF.
Right.
And I'd been meeting with the liaison officer, and we're exploring the whole, okay, they'll pay for uni, they'll teach me to fly, I'll serve 5 years kind of thing. And I was like, that's it. That's awesome. That's what I want to do.
Great.
And then I was on my gap year in Hong Kong. My parents were there at the time. They'd left. So my parents, it's great. I'm 17 and they left the country. They moved 10,000 miles away.
Right.
And I put myself through boarding school at the end. I had a little apartment nearby and, looked after myself. So I was kind of like on my own recognizance from 17, which was great.
Right.
And when I was in Hong Kong, basically, like I was there, turned up, I was doing a little internship. And then my mum basically set me up with a meeting with I go see with a modeling agency. I think they were called Signal 8 in Hong Kong. And that was on a Monday. And then on Wednesday, I went to my first casting, which is a very funny story, which I might tell later.
Right.
And then on Friday, I was in my first photo shoot. I was doing a photo shoot and I was getting paid. I'd gone from getting £5 an hour working in a bar in Guildford. I was getting paid 50 quid an hour for people to take my picture. And I'm like, well, this is way better.
This works, yes.
By the end of that gap year, I'd done like a few campaigns here and then I'd done a Levi's sort of shoot. And then I ended up as a bad guy in a Hong Kong action movie, which is on Amazon Prime. Don't watch it. It's terrible. But like Paul Rudd was in it. Maggie Q was in it. I was Kurt's henchman number 3. And so when I went back after my gap year and started uni, suddenly my life was like back in Asia, like, because Asia's always been like where my heart is, and I'd made all these friends and I started dating a girl. And so what I was doing is I spent like the 3 years of uni. You're only really at uni for like 4.5 months in England. The rest of the time I was back in Asia, and when I was in Asia, I'd do part-time modeling and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until I was 23 I went to Singapore on a 2-week trip, and I left 11 years later with a wife, 2 kids, and a TV career. It's funny the way things work out. You just sometimes got to jump. But yeah, I'm from everywhere. So people like ask where I'm from. Right now I say Waco.
Right. And then they cock their head to the side and say,
and then
really?
They just give me that funny look. And then I start doing the Texas accent, and then like, all right, okay, never mind.
Yeah, once in a while, if I'm feeling feisty, somebody will say, "Where are you from?" And I'll say Arkansas with a straight face.
I do. Mine's Poughkeepsie. I do Poughkeepsie.
Right.
Yeah. I've got the same thing. It's like you just to mess with them. And I go, yeah, I'm from Poughkeepsie. They go, your accent's not from around here, and I'm like, that's right, it's from Poughkeepsie, mate.
Poughkeepsie. That's right.
The most American and random sounding place I could think of off the top of my head.
The only thing I know about Poughkeepsie, I'm a big, you probably see behind me, not obviously good podcasting. I'm a big fan of the show Friends, and Ross ends up going to Poughkeepsie. It's the only thing I know about it. That's so fascinating. So how did you get into TV? Was it really through the modeling?
Yeah, it was honestly, as you may have noticed, I don't shut up. I like to talk. And so when I was modeling, they were just like, I got into sort of doing some commercials. So, I did as a Axe commercial. So Lynx, I always wanted to do a Lynx advert because they're so funny. I had my own Axe commercial. It's very funny. And so these sort of, these production companies, as they're growing up, they start sort of developing from doing commercials to making television products and projects. And they just remembered this model that like had a lot of energy and liked to talk. And so one of those sort of production companies reached out to me, and there's this guy, John Moore, actually, he's one of my very first directors. He's still a good friend of mine, and he reached out to me and he's like, look, come in to do this casting. And my very first job was doing World Cup primetime, I think. So it was the World Cup was going in Germany, 2006, I want to say.
Yep.
And
that's about right.
I was, I was hired as the secondary host. So there was a lead host, Singaporean guy. I think his name was Tim. and I was supposed to do like 10 of the 22 days as a co-host. And on day two, I got promoted to the lead host, and that was it. And
Fantastic.
that was the next 17 years of my life, from the very first TV show I did until the end of right this minute in 2022. I was never not working on a TV show. So I had a 17-year straight run of employment in television, which is pretty ridiculous and unheard of
I was
in a lot
gonna
of ways.
say, I'm assuming that is incredibly unlikely. You know, it doesn't happen
Yeah.
often.
I was like, it was just a kind of thing of like, I was the only real white TV host in Asia. So I was working on international TV. So back then, there was a sort of Asian cable. So you had like Star and you had like AXN, so Sony and Fox. And I was working for HBO Asia, Cinemax Asia. You know, I was doing Lonely Planet Asia, Food Network Asia, TLC. I was driving the cash cab. I was the cash cab Asia driver. So like I kind of had this, it was kind of interesting actually. Like I said, I was the only white guy doing it, but like I was good. You know, I just naturally
Right.
was quite a performer. And like John, he's the one that taught me how to take my energy and to focus it into TV. And then I just got like, honestly, it was all the stuff I did at college had taught me, because 60, I say college now because I lived in America, uni,
Right.
but like at uni, everything, like 80% of my uni course was presentations. So I was really good at talking and taking information in and remembering it. I had a lot of confidence. I'd done plays and stuff at dance at boarding school. So I had no sort of like fear, and I just blew up. Like I had 5 TV shows at one point, all going at the same time. I had 2 shows on the same network happen back to back. So there was the Oli
Right.
Pettigrew Hour on AXN, and then you could turn over, so I did Cash Cab and Sony Star, and then you could turn over to HBO, and I'd be doing the daily hostings. Then on Cinemax, I had EPAD, and then you'd be on Discovery Channel. I'm doing Lonely Planet, and they were all broadcasting at the same time, and it was just absolutely bonkers.
This is such a weird full circle moment because Lonely Planet, we talked before we started recording about Michael Palin and how that just lit the fire for both of us, a lot of travel.
Hmm.
But Lonely Planet or Globe Trekker was
Yeah,
the other one for me. So
dude,
now I'm
I got to do it.
wondering
Yeah.
if I watched you at some point
Oh,
without realizing it.
there's a chance. I did. Well, I know Lonely Planet 6 degrees. So I did Lonely Planet 6 degrees. I did 6 degrees China. So I did Chengdu, Nanjing, and what was my other one? Shanghai. And I know that broadcast all over the world. So I've had people reach out from South Africa. I had people reach out from South America, Australia. I had people from the UK reach out that had seen my Food Network stuff. So I did these like shorts for the Food Network. That was the show actually that got me into America. But
Right.
um, but yeah, there's a chance. I mean, like, because we were talking, like I said,
Yeah.
right before we started, the weird thing about doing That Englishman in Texas now is that I chose That Englishman in Texas because my whole career, 18, 19 TV shows that are broadcast everywhere in the world, except for maybe Antarctica. So every other
Right.
continent I've been on TV. And people would always kind of clock me. Like when I was in Asia, I was pretty famous in Asia. Like there were certain countries like I'd go to, I would get mobbed, like Philippines and things like that.
Right.
But it was always like when people would recognize me, they'd be like, "Hey, you're that guy. You're that guy from that show." And I'd be like, "Oh, which one?" Like Cash Cab. Yeah,
Right.
I'm that guy. I'm the Cash Cab guy. And so even here, I did 8 years on a national show called Right This Minute, and I got recognized 3 times in Texas. Like I was in HEB, and people like come and go, "Hey man, y'all that guy from that show, right?" And I go, "Yeah,
Right.
Right This Minute." And they go, "Yeah, yeah. How you doing?" But now since I'm doing That Englishman in Texas, like I get recognized everywhere,
Right.
everywhere. I get
Right.
recognized multiple times a day. It doesn't matter if I'm in San Antonio. It doesn't matter if I'm in Eastland. It doesn't matter if I'm just on a fishing pier down like in where was I? Freeport the other day, Surfside. I got out of the car on Bucky's and someone clocked me getting out the car. And it's no longer you're that guy. It's hey, it's Ollie. You're Oli Pettigrew. You're that
Right.
Englishman in Texas. And it's bonkers to me. It's like now I've got the name recognition. Everybody knows who I am. Like in Texas, it's really really crazy to me now that like of all the stuff that doing That Englishman, has really sort of brought people in. But I think it's because I'm a very open guy.
I think so. And you came up organically in the conversation. It was actually my daughter's pregnant, as we discussed again before we got in there at her baby shower. A very good friend on the other side of the family. Uh, she's from here, but lived in England for I think her husband was in the Navy, so
Cool.
she's American from Texas, but lived in Bournemouth, I think, for 20 odd years.
That's where my brother lives.
Oh, is it? Oh, lovely. But
Yeah.
they and she was just talking about different kinds of food, and we're getting an HEB near where we live, and she was like,
Oh, you're getting
"Oh,
an
and
HEB up there.
it is the nearest one is it's probably a 30 to 40 minute drive.
Oh, that's so.
We're getting one not 5 minutes from our
I
house.
always feel so bad for people. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
got one 6 minutes away, and
yeah,
like and I live in the country. I've got 2.6 acres, right? I live in proper country, but I just go
right.
the very road that I'm on becomes the road that becomes HEB, and it's an HEB plus
Glorious.
as
Right.
well. And so someone I did a video because I'm an HEB ambassador now, which is basically
Oh,
like getting
lovely.
an infinity stone.
Right,
If I can get Whataburger and Bucky's, I'm going to become governor.
right.
But like someone was like, y'all got an HEB near you? And I just went dot dot dot. I have four. And they were like,
Right.
what? There's four? Yeah, I can get to four in 15 minutes. So it's absolutely wild. But I know it's like I remember 20 years ago coming to Waco where you couldn't find an HEB north of Waco. You know,
Yeah,
I remember what it was like. And so all of my sort of followers who were up in like, Dallas area, stuffing like that, they were all celebrating because I think one opened in Prosper. Was it Prosper that
Prosper,
recently?
which is not all that far. It's a lot of traffic. Like it's too far for us
Yeah.
to go really. But yeah,
Are they
it's
going
in
to declare
Prosper.
like a citywide holiday when it opens?
I
Like,
think so, because we're getting two at once in Denton.
oh, wow.
There's one on the south side, one on the north side where I live, and they've got land and they're building them both. I mean,
Yeah.
people are, I mean, it is going to be like a national holiday, that kind
Well,
of feeling here.
HEB are a
Yeah,
fantastic company. I got invited
yeah,
down to like an influencer conference, their very first one. So they brought like 15, 20 of us down to San Antonio and we got the tour of the place and we got presentations and we met people. We even met the CEO. And we're like, it's such a great company to work for. Everyone loves working for it.
right,
And I really like working with them as well because they're just our kind of people. They're good people. Like
right,
everyone knows HEB is awesome because they have their like disaster response team and stuff like that.
right.
And they're just like I was talking to the CEO and I was talking about that, the expansion of it. And basically he's like, look, we've got land for like 20 or 30 HEBs in Dallas, but we open one or two and we make sure they're working. And then we move on to the next one. Like, we don't overexpand. We want to maintain quality. We want it to be the HEB experience. So we just need people to be patient, but we'd rather it be good than it just be there. And I'm just like, this is again what I think people like about HEB.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've got, it just reminds me, this is completely off the topic. A friend, I'm a college professor now. I was a teacher. And years ago, I taught a kid, and he had to move in the middle of the year. And his dad works for a petrol company, a gas petroleum company, and he helps purchase the corner lots, the bits of land that they hold on to, and then
Hmm.
when the timing is right, they put the filling station on that bit of land. But he literally carries fake IDs and checks into hotels under different names because there's people for all these companies,
Right.
Exxon, Shell, Quick Trip, all of them, all vying for the same land. So they look where their
That's
competitors are staying.
that's a
It's like
fun.
espionage.
I was about to say that would
Yeah,
be kind of like a fun sort of like comedic espionage TV show.
it'd be amazing because I said, "Oh, that's a shame you're leaving. Where are you guys moving?" And he's like, I'm not allowed to say. It's like a
That's
non.
amazing.
It's like an NDA." He
You'd make the
said,
TV show and like the tagline
"Yeah,
is "It's a gas."
there you go. That could be. You'll be back on TV in no time with
Oh, I'm
that one."
great at branding and taglines. That is just like stuff
That's
I'm
it.
always like, oh, this is what we do. And they go, how did you do it? I go, I don't know. My brain just does it
It just
automatically.
does it. I just wonder if if they're like that, if there's that kind of secret underworld of
Oh, there must be.
purchasing the land but
Yeah.
not telling the high ups at Kroger or Albertsons or
Well, that's
any
the
of the
thing.
other
I
ones.
mean, HEB, it's like it's not culty because but at the
Right.
same time, it's because it's actual love. Like it was so bonkers to me. Like when I first came, like again, going back 18, 19 years, my wife brought me to
Right.
Texas. She goes, "Oh, what? We're going to HEB," and I go, "What?" She goes, we're going to HEB," and I go, "What's that?" She
Right.
goes, it's a grocery store, but it's better." And I
Right.
was like, it's my first introduction to how much people love it. But honestly, I agree. I think it is. I remember going, this is the same one I go to now. It's a
Right.
banger. It's so great. And it's like, I
Right.
can even, honestly, I swear
Yeah.
this happened. But I started doing videos before, like for a couple of years before, like I got the ambassadorship. But they came to me for some stuff. But not long after I started doing videos from my HEB and telling stories about the whole thing, the British section got bigger.
Isn't that
So
beautiful?
I can get all
Yeah,
like there's the all of the classic British and all my favorite British like chocolates and stuff like that are there, and I was
right.
like, they've been watching my stuff.
They know, they know.
But the fact that I can go and like get like chocolate digestives and hobnobs and stuff like that from HEB
Right.
just down the road is every now and again is like, oh man, a little taste of the UK will go nicely. Thank you very much.
That's right. See, that's what I'm looking forward to. We had our Kroger, another supermarket right here, did have British things, but they got rid of that. They were expensive; it didn't sell. We have
Right.
we have a specific British store, but it's quite far,
Is that the one in
and
Grapevine?
that's the one in Grapevine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people have told me to go visit that one. I was in
it's
Grapevine, but I was drinking wine.
yeah, that's what people do in Grapevine. Grapevine is twinned with it's twinned with the town in Scotland. I forget which one, somewhere in West Lothian, I think. But yeah, the one in Grapevine, the British Emporium, it's kind of if you are from the UK and you live in Texas, you live in North Texas especially, you know it. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like a community gathering place.
Do they do
Uh,
Cornish pasties though? Because that's what I want. That's like, if you talk about like the British thing I miss the most, like
yeah,
there's all like, well, one, it's the 2 o'clock in the morning quality doner kebab from the
right,
van from Abdul.
right, right.
It's like proper pubs, but I did discover like the Londoner up in Addison
Yep,
is I got invited up during like an England game. They promoted it and I did a video for them. But it was like walking through a wormhole into the UK because I walked
yeah.
into the pub. Everyone's wearing England shirts. Sorry, I know you are
It's
English, but
okay, right?
but but everyone's there. Everyone's speaking English. There was a huge population of Brits in the Texas I've discovered because I mean I've got three British friends like here in
Right.
Waco, but like it was just that vibe. It looked like a pub.
Yes.
It felt like a pub because it's got weird dimensions and low ceiling and like an
Very
unstable
dark.
floor. Yeah. And you got dartboards and we had like Scotch eggs. And I was just to my wife, I go, this is amazing. This is like being back because Americans don't, I did a video about this. I always talk about it, honestly, is like they don't understand pubs. And it's
Right.
like I had to explain a pub is a public house. Everyone is welcome. You are welcome to come. And it's like I said, usually the landlord back in the day, they'd be living upstairs and
Right.
downstairs as the house for everybody else to use. And the community will go in, everybody. And it's the kind of place you can go when it opens at 11 o'clock in the morning and you would stay sometimes until 11:30 at night when they threw you out. There's
Right.
no limit. No one is bringing you the bill. That is the
Right.
thing I hate in
Right.
America. Like they go, and here's your bill when you're ready. I'm not ready. I'm going to be here for 3 hours. Take
Right.
that, take it away. It used to irritate me because like in Singapore, dinners would be like with my wife, these 2-3 hour affairs where we go out and you socialize and you meet your friends.
Right.
And here you go out with my Texan friends. Sometimes it's like all my family. And it's a 45-minute thing. And I'm like, look, guys, no, sit down, pop another bottle. We're not in
Right.
any rush. You're going to get a
Right.
better tip if you leave me alone.
Right. We're not trying to turn this table over as quick as
No,
we can. I've
that's
got
what I
this for
mean.
the evening.
Like that, and that's what a pub is like you'd sit down, I'd take a book, and I'd go and spend hours at the pub, and I'd just have a couple of
Yeah.
pints and order some food, get some chips, sit by the fire. That's because honestly, like I said, I've spent almost. If I spend one more year, I think here in the States, I will have lived here longer than I lived in the UK, which means the UK will be where I lived the least. I did like 25 years
Right.
in Asia, 11 years here. I think it was 12 years or something in the UK. So it's weird that yeah, I'm like the worst British person ever. Like I'm
Right.
so out of touch. People go, "What's it like in the UK?" I go, I don't know.
Don't know.
You know,
Yeah.
since 2003, since until I took that trip in 2022 that we talked about right before we started recording, I did a
Yes.
2 week trip to the UK with my family because my neither of my kids had been and my wife hadn't been for decades. And so they were like, "Dad, can we go to your place?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, come on, we'll go." And we had a great time. We had a
Right.
fantastic time. But
Right.
until then, since 2000, I think three, I'd spent 9 days in the UK
Isn't that just wild?
because I've just been living my life elsewhere. I've just been
Yeah.
traveling the world, and just hopping from, living from Hong Kong, and then we're living in Singapore, and then we're back in Hong Kong, and then we're in New Zealand for a little while, and then suddenly we moved to America, and I'm in Texas, I'm in Arizona, I'm in Texas, and it's like,
Right.
that's what I mean. I've lived so many places and moved so many times that it's like, I always, even when I lived in the UK, I always considered like people say, "Where you from?" I go, "Hong Kong," and I'd
Right.
remember. I remember the first thing I remember is eating char siu bao, and I remember growing up in Clearwater Bay and seeing the fishing like boats. My school was Boundary Junior School, and it was the final approach for the Kai Tak. So you know all these old photos of Hong Kong with planes just
Yes.
touching the top of the building. That's my
Yeah.
school was there,
Right.
and so
That'd be
just so much
amazing.
of my core memory was Hong Kong. So when I went back, I started smelling the place, and just all became so familiar to me again. Like I went back when I was 12 to visit my dad for a while, but yeah,
Right.
I mean, when people ask, they go, "Where's home to you?" I mean, I say home is wherever I am, really. But
Right.
like my heart is
Yeah.
whenever I'm back in Asia. Everything is so familiar to me, and I love the vibe and the food and the smells and the people and everything. It's awesome.
I absolutely love it. I love that again, small world. When I first moved here, I went to the Londoner in Edison every Saturday morning
Oh, good man.
because we would. I'm a Rangers fan for my sins. It's a tough situation right now. You know, we're in mourning a lot, but we were the first supporters group of a team to meet in the Londoner
Oh,
every
cool.
every week. That was our thing. We helped purchase the satellite dish because that's what was needed. This was just before NBC bought all the rights and football exploded here.
Hmm.
Um, so it's fun because it's now gone to one of the premier football watching pubs in the entire country. They've got plaques, they've won awards. There's now three Londoners in the Dallas area.
Yeah, I've been to two of
Um,
them.
right?
But honestly, if I
Yeah.
lived closer to that Addison one, I'd be there every weekend too. I mean, that's my
Yeah.
goal. I always said to the missus, I said, look, the ultimate goal of that Englishman is to open that Englishman's pub in Texas. And
Oh,
it's just,
that's good. That's
I
good.
would, that's the one. But like, and it will be a proper pub.
Right.
It would be a proper pub where you could just
Done
all are
properly.
welcome. Come on in.
It's
But
funny. I follow a guy online who's almost the opposite of you in a lot of sense. He's from, not sure where he's from in the States, but now lives in London
mm,
and just makes a lot of videos, musings, observations
yeah,
about the differences. And he's like, of all the stuff, of all the things, and you brought this up, he's like, the thing I love the most is being able to go into a pub at 11:30 in the morning. And he said there's always an old man with a book sitting by the fire with a
yep,
pint, and it's normal. And it's
yeah.
like that's the cult, like that sums up the culture in one person. He's like that's what he misses when he leaves the UK.
Yeah, when we did that
Yeah,
trip, every single day
yeah,
was a pub lunch. Every single day.
yeah.
Whatever city we were in York, it didn't matter. We were in Bath, we were in Glasgow, Edinburgh, it didn't matter. London, different boroughs of London. Where are we going for lunch? Pub. And
Right,
just
right,
pint, bangers and mash, pint, whatever it is, but just like, proper chips. And
right,
like, I
right.
just that was it. And my wife, again, she's a Texan girl, country girl from Texas, but like she is
Right.
also a world traveler. She's been to like 50 countries just like I have. We met in Singapore and she loves pubs. Like the pub that we had in Singapore was this place called Number Five. It's
Right.
just off Orchard Road. It's a magical place. And there was one day where we spent 12 hours there. We did a full 12 hours
Right.
where we turned up after our castings and then we put the word out to sort of our little modeling crew and then more and more, and by the end of it there's like 18, 19 models have taken over the whole back of the pub, which is where they had rugs down and low tables so you can sit on the floor kind of vibe. And then the next door pub, which was owned by them, would come in and they gave free steak sandwiches every few hours that you could like
Yes.
take little nibbles. And I was like, one of the best days I've ever had in my life. We just spent 12
Right.
hours in a pub with my friends and my future wife, awesome.
I absolutely love it. It's funny. One of my core memories it was being 18, 19. I was in Dublin, and this is. I'm sure things have changed, but I was backpacking, and I was with an Australian guy, a Canadian guy, and a Danish guy. It sounds like Englishman, Irishman, Scotsman
Yeah, I
going
was
into
about
a
to
pub.
say.
And we did the tour of the Guinness. I assume it's a distillery. Don't want to get the technical term making Guinness, but we did the tour, and in the wee pamphlet they gave you, there was two. It was like vouchers to get two free pints
Mm,
in a pub at the end. But there's no money changing hands, and all they do is give you free Guinness. But it looks like
yeah.
a pub. So we discovered that a lot of people don't like Guinness and would
Yeah.
leave their second voucher on the table. So we all chipped in and we paid the barman. We said, "How much are we going to have to give you for you not to kick us out?" And he's like, he threw out some very cheap nominal figure because I think he just respected the fact we asked, and we were going to be well behaved.
Yeah, yeah. At
So
least again, it was polite of you to do that.
yeah, we all slipped him. I think it was still Irish pounds or whatever it was before the euro, and we all gave him some, and we just sat there collecting the vouchers. for the rest of the day and the night.
That's the
And
way to do it.
yeah,
I did the Texas version. I mean, you might know it's got my Shiner Bock hat, and
yes,
so like I did it about 15 years ago. But they invited me down because I did a video. It was one of my biggest videos I've ever had actually on Facebook. Where
right.
like when I started doing That Englishman, I wondered how many videos can I do about Texas. I thought maybe I could do like 15 or 20 videos or something like that. And the top
Right.
first two I wanted to do were I did HEB. I said, there's something about Texas you need to know. And I did an HEB video, blew up, millions of views, Facebook, TikTok. That's where and that's where HEB found me. But it took me 6 weeks to see the message because I didn't have enough followers to be able to read messages from businesses. But then the other one I
Interesting.
wanted to do was Bock because my very first trip to the States, we came to Texas, and the very first place we went to was we went to Cheddar's because my wife really loves their Monte Cristo sandwiches, and we walk in, and someone's pouring this red pint. I go, what's that? And I go, oh, this is a Shiner Bock. And I'm like, oh, I'll have one of those, please. And I
Right.
tasted it, and I go, well, that's my favorite beer I've ever had in my entire life. And so
Right.
I'd always wanted to tell that story, and it just I'd never found the right time, and I wanted to make sure I did it right. And it was I guess about 18 months ago, maybe, yeah, about 18 months ago. And I was just sitting in a bar downtown Waco. Really, it's a place called Crickets, but it's got a great beer selection, and it was a beautiful day. I was sitting up on the balcony. I'd just been hanging around, and I was having a day for me. I'm having Dad's taking a few hours for himself, and I
Good
had
for
a
you.
couple of pints of Shiner Bock, and I go down to get my third one, and they pour the perfect pint.
Right.
It looks like it's a commercial, right? It's just, oh
Right.
wow. And so I come back up, and I'm just two beers in, which means I'm feeling great. I'm on this balcony and I'm alone. The lighting is great, and I just started rolling with no plan. And I tell that story about, and then as I get to that point, I bring it in. I bring in the pint, the best beer in the world, and I take it and I take a drink, and I was like, because when one of my things I do when I travel, when I was working on all these travel shows and stuff, is that whenever I go to a country, I would order whatever their local beer is.
Right.
Thailand, it's Singer, and or it's Qingdao when I was in China, or whatever. Like all these different beers. Tiger in Singapore, like Hong Kong San Mig, which is great. I used to love that one, but it was just I told that story, and it's got I think oh my god, like 8 million views or something like that on Facebook. It just absolutely blew up. I still get comments every day. And that's where Shiner Bock were like, hey man, you want to come
Right.
do a tour? And they got the master brewer, gave me a personal tour. It was awesome. And he even says, do you want to have the best, freshest beer you've ever had in your life? And I go, yeah. And he goes, he runs down, and he pulls these bottles off that haven't even gone through. So they haven't done the actual sort of whatever, they do the specific, it's not pasteurization, but it might be, but they have to go
Right.
through this, they have to be sort of baked in a sort of way. He goes, no, this is just fresh. Oh my God,
Right.
incredible. And then, yeah, they just gave me all this merch, and they send me stuff. They send me Christmas presents. They invite me down to Shiner Fest and stuff like that. So it's I was like, they even got t-shirts made, custom t-shirts that I gave away in a competition, but I've got a couple. But it says Shiner beer, the best beer in the world, quote
Right.
me, quoting myself. And I was just like, so cool.
It's funny. We discovered this. We went to Belgium a year and a half ago, and Holland. We came to the little Northern European on the continent kind of jaunt, and going to breweries. It's great because I like a beer as much as the next guy, but you find out about the history of the town.
Yeah,
So much
fascinating.
stuff. It's so interesting. It's not. It's it's all about the beer, but it's not about the beer.
Hmm.
You know.
I mean,
And
China, I mean, the
yeah.
whole town. I mean, if you've ever been, I highly recommend you go actually, Asda.
Okay.
It's take the road trip down to China. It's just below the highway in between Houston and San Antonio. It's a great little
Right.
town, but it's a great little community. They've got such a cool brewery now. Their tour is so modern now. It's all iPad
Right.
controlled and things open. It's got a great story. But the story that I loved was Jimmy. Like I said, the master brewer was telling me about the story because he goes, yeah, I went to school over there, on the other side. And I remember as a kid, the master brewer of China coming to talk at my school for career day. And I'm like, cool, one day I want to do that. And look at me now. And I was
Right.
like, he was such a nice guy. He had so many great stories, but quite literally, there is his sweat is in the staircases of he before modernization. He was showing me he goes, you want to see something no one gets to see? I'm like, yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. And so he showed me this old sort of storage area, and he goes, yeah, we had to carry the bags, and they weighed 120 pounds, and it's we had to carry them up this wooden staircase, and that's where he was. He worked his way all the way up. He is Shiner beer. If you've ever had a Shiner,
Right.
you're drinking Jimmy's Shiner. And like it was just it's his life, and he will work there until he retires, and then he will drink there until he dies. And
There's
I was like,
something
Jimmy, you're living
beautiful.
the dream, man.
Yeah. Yeah, to
Figured it
know
out
your
when he was
purpose.
5. Yeah, yeah,
That's a
but absolutely.
beautiful thing.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, we
I
should
love
be so
stories like that
lucky.
though.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I love about like getting out and traveling. And that's what I like about getting out and driving around Texas to find these places is like, I'm really trying to become kind of the unofficial Texas ambassador. Because I'm like, one thing that when I started
Yeah.
doing that Englishman is like, I realized that it's a very misjudged place.
Right.
People think they
Right.
know Texas because they read headlines, and
Yeah.
they think they know Texas because they see what politicians are saying. And I often say that, like, honestly, the loudest and the stupidest among us are usually the ones that get a microphone put in front of them. And
Yeah.
it doesn't reflect who Texans actually are, or what this place is. It's actually a really special place. And one of my, again, first biggest sort of videos I did was I asked the question, do you know what the state motto of Texas is? Do you know what the state motto of Texas is? A lot of people don't, so don't worry. A lot of Texans, like
Yeah. I mean,
95%.
my immediate gut would be, well, I'm guessing the official one might be that "Don't tread on me," but it's or
Right.
friendship. Is it
Yeah,
friendship?
friendship. There you go.
Friendship. That's it. No, I had to
Okay.
think it through. Yes.
Boom. Yes. So the
Yes.
official state motto of Texas is friendship, but it gets
That's
even
right.
better. That if you trace the etymology of the word Texas, you go from Texas to Tejas, and everyone goes, yeah, Tejas means ally and friend. And I go, oh, yes, it does. But Tejas comes from Tasha, the word that the Caddo Nation, the native people of this area
Hmm.
before settlement, had for friend and ally. So the etymology of the word Texas quite literally means friend. And there's no hyperbole when I say this.
Yeah.
I've been to 50 countries in the world. I've lived all over the world. The friendliest place I've ever lived is Texas. They are the friendliest people I've ever met. And it's like, and I like, so I did that video telling that story, but that's why I do it. Is like, I know you need to see who Texans really are. And like
Yeah.
you get to see that with things like, what happened down in Kerrville with
Hmm.
the flooding. You get to
Yep.
see that when I use the example because it's also a real example because I read this in the news, but I used to use it anyway before I'd even read the story. I go, no, you could move to Texas tomorrow.
Right.
And you could move into your house and there's a storm that night and a tree falls down on your house. You'll wake up in the morning to a knock on your door with a bunch of neighbors and they've got chainsaws, pickup trucks, and they've baked you a pie and they'll fix the problem. And that's who Texans are. And so I've just taken on this responsibility of telling these stories, but also everything online and so much of America. I mean, since like 2016, since I've been here since like 2014, everything's become so divisive, and
Hmm.
it's all about pushing people apart. And the algorithm online is all about fear and anger. And if you can separate and sort of make people afraid and make them angry, you can control them and you
Yep.
can make them do what you want, make them vote the way you want. And I'm like, I do specifically, I'm bringing people together. So
Right.
I never talk about that kind of stuff. But what I love is I'll do a video and I'm just reminding Texans about what they love about Texas. Because I didn't realize I was making videos for Texans. I thought for everybody else, but Texans love to talk about
Right.
Texas.
Right.
And they love it when you love Texas. But you get into the comments section underneath my videos, like on Facebook or something like that. And people live very loud in their profile pictures about who they are on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you'll see just as many people from like, with the right and pictures of guns and stuff like that. And just as many people with rainbows and all this kind of stuff from the left. And they're all in the comments and they're agreeing. And I'm like,
Right.
that's something that I learned from my world travels is I could be in Oman and I'm sort of like, meeting this family who don't speak the same language, but we're sitting out on the floor and we're sharing food and there's 3 generations. Or I was on the Mekong Delta with a former Viet Cong soldier in Vietnam, or I'm in this little village in Nepal or whatever. It's all the same things. We all love friendship and fellowship and family and food and sports and music and
Right.
all this other stuff. And that 2% of shit that they tell you that matters
Right. Right.
doesn't matter, but you're so obsessed with it. And so I'm trying to be like the positive place on the internet. And I got another message today. People literally tell me this. They go, I follow you because you're always so upbeat and chipper and positive about things. And I'm like, good, because I want to be the only place, because I feel like I'm the only place that is, if you
Right.
open
There's
your
so
phone.
much negativity. I mean, I have a sort of love-hate thing with social media, and I have
Yeah.
to be very conscious and very deliberate about blocking, getting rid of, not following negativity, and
Oh yeah.
making it a place of happiness.
I just deleted Twitter. That was like, like that had to
Yeah.
go. And then
Yeah.
like, for me, I think the one that sort of saved me like during the pandemic and just when things were just so bad.
Hmm.
And I was kind of like like you, I was going on. Sometimes you're doom scrolling, and you're like, how has the
Right.
country come to this? I'm like,
Right.
what is going on? That I went to Reddit,
Yep.
and the thing I didn't understand Reddit for the longest time.
I still
But
don't.
now,
Yeah.
so this is so the thing is, right, as I would say, go to Reddit, because there is a Reddit for anything. Aviation, if you I like planes, I like Friends, there'll be a Friends Reddit, there'll be
Right.
Funko Pops Reddit, there'll be, I like, there's things called positivity and things like that. So it's just r slash, and that's what the thing is about. So I
Right.
went in and I curated a Reddit of just positivity and cool things and planes and Land Rovers and good
Right.
food and stuff like that, and absolutely no negative stuff, no news, no nothing. So that when I needed to cleanse my soul, I would go and positive scroll on Reddit, and I would see
I
people
like
being
that.
good people, and I would see cool things, and I go, "That's delicious," and look at that little kitten. And it was like, because you just exactly, I cut myself out. I now allow myself. I'll go in. I'm very like I keep myself very well informed, but I
Hmm.
just give myself like, all right, Ollie, you've got 45 minutes to read the news and digest, and then get out. Just
Yep.
get out. And for the love
Done.
of God, do not read the comments, because people suck.
Yeah.
And then I
Yes.
go, okay, I'm going to go into a video and I'm going to do something really positive, and everyone in the comments is going to feel really good. And I can do that. And that's what makes me feel good at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Because I know I could be divisive, and it annoys me no end. That if I picked a side, or I just decided to be controversial, I'd have 20 million followers and I'd be making all this money. And I'm like, that's just not who I am. I just
Right.
can't do it. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to get there. Because like right now, it's still a lot of hustle. I've got 300,000 followers, right? But that does not translate to being able to just exist. No, most of my time is spent hustling, 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 trying to
Right.
find deals, working with cities, working with businesses, doing what I can. But like, I would love to just add a zero to my followers where I'm making enough ad money in the background, then I can just be Captain Positive. Like
Right.
I've just launched a Patreon. I've got like nearly 100 Patreon supporters now. And it's like, if I could just get 1,000 Patreon supporters, 0.3% of my followers, just to give me $5 a month in
Right.
support, I could get out on the road and just tell all of the realest, most real teeny tiny town stories, because that's what I love. I go to the small towns where they've got, a Kalachi festival. I go to the small towns where it's like, this is where Dublin Dr. Pepper came from. And I just tell these small town stories and find these people. And even for Texans, they're like, I had no idea that was there. Like you
Right.
mentioned
Right.
Gainesville, right?
Yeah.
I tell Gainesville, one of the best kept secrets in Texas, because no one goes, because it's the very last stop before you cross the Red River and you get
Right.
into Oklahoma where the casino
Right.
is, right? And they've all been
Exactly.
driving I-35 for like an hour. They've been dealing with the traffic. They've come through
Yep.
Denton, right? And it's like they don't turn off. And I'm like, turn off. I go, even if you're going to the casino,
Yep.
stay in Gainesville. I stayed at
Yep.
the Shady Lady B&B. It's a former brothel, right?
That's
And
fantastic.
everything downtown is owned by Steve and Anne. And you know what I mean? It's like everything is just
Right.
community owned. There's no Starbucks and McDonald's and stuff like that. That's by the highway. But I loved it. And then I took my wife back, and she loved it too. And I was honestly, I said to the guys when I was working with the city, I said, oh no, guys, I would move here. This is a
Yeah.
wonderful community. And so it's like, it's stuff like that. That's why I like doing what I do, is I get to discover these kinds of things.
Yeah. Again, because it's so close.
Mhm.
I've not really. I've driven
Go.
through Gainesville. One of the things two things I know and I like. We've got a good friend who used to be a neighbor and a fellow co-worker, was from Gainesville, moved around and went back because she's like,
Mhm.
it's just a special place.
Okay,
And
you
they
want a
also,
recommendation?
that's
Croots.
it.
Croots
Roots.
Brewery,
All right.
Krootz, I believe. But it's a brewery right next to like this little park that they've got.
Okay.
Mrs. and I went back. Their food is just, there was no wrong answer. I'll try and find you the video of when we went
Right.
there, because they just like, they laid, their whole bar top was all of this food. And we just started making friends with people sitting next to us. Guys, come in. They've given us all this food. Come and share it. And we just,
I
it was
love it.
it was so good. We've been meaning to go back. But like, they've got quality drinks, but like incredibly good food. And it's like, that's why I'm like I said, I'm this British guy, but I know all these random little secrets about Texas, and I know all these random things about Texas history now, that it's like, yeah, I've become like this Texas dude. It's absolutely, I mean, like, I'm wearing a Texas shirt with a Shinerbock hat. Honestly, I
Right.
should be riding a horse, holding a gun, and that would be pretty much like just complete the whole thing.
There's so much that you do that reminds me. Again, you said there's a lot of British people in North Texas. Two doors down is an English guy, really nice. My friend Kess, and when he first moved to the States, I think I've got this story right. His wife went to uni in London where they met, and then they came back here. She is from Midland, which is where it's in
Hmm.
West Texas. So his first job was working as a newspaper reporter in West Texas.
Wow.
And so here was this English guy in the 90s, and he was covering like the rattlesnake roundup
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. And he was just he felt like a fish out of water, but loved
Oh, I
every
love
bit of it.
I love the fish out of water is the way I like to be.
Yeah.
I found like I said, no diss on England, no diss on
All
the
right, of
UK.
course.
But
Yeah.
it's just like it's I just whenever I remember just being on a I had an hour and a half commute when I lived in Hong Kong because I was at the time in Honlok Yun. I had to take an hour train ride to get to the Kowloon Canton Railway, so Kowloon Tong, and then I get off and get on the MTR and I go across the sort of like underneath the to the island, and that's where I was working. So it was an hour and a half commute, but I'd be on this
Right.
train and I'm looking out the window at Hong Kong and these bays and these things going by, and I go, beats doing this in the UK. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
it's just I've always kind of thought that way. Is like is I love the UK and I had a great time and I miss the pubs, but I want to see something new. I want to go
Yeah.
somewhere new.
Be
I
different.
think
See.
our next plan we think is maybe Panama. My wife's half Panamanian. We took a trip down there during COVID. That was one of the only places where you could travel, but they were really, really smart about it. They made it
Right.
really convenient that they would even like they would where whatever hotel you were at, they would come to and test you 2 days before you left so you could get back in. It was very, very clever. Everyone was following the rules. There was no arguments. There was no anti-vaxxers. There was no
Right.
anti-maskers. They just followed the rules, but it meant that their country had tourism and they were making money. And I fell in love with it. Panama is fantastic. I
I've
couldn't get
never
enough.
been there. I would love to
Yeah,
go. I'd
it's
love
such a
to
secret.
explore.
It's such
Yeah.
a secret because, like, we ended up on this beach and it's like this half volcanic sort of beach, and you got the black sand and stuff. And it was like this long beach, and there was one resort 8 miles that way, and the resort we were in. And I was like, man, if this was Mexico, there'd be 120 resorts,
Right. Just
and
as
it's
far as the
just,
eye could see.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then 25 minutes later, we're up in the mountains. She's always talked about this place to me for 20 years. We finally went, and she goes, Ollie, no, like the clouds come down off the mountains. You're swimming in the clouds. And it was exactly as she described. And I was like, this is where we're going to buy a house one day. Like,
Right.
it was so cool. And I'm like, that Englishman in Panama, that'll be the next one.
That'll be the that'll be it.
But
Well,
it's
it's
a
funny.
wonderful, wonderful place.
While you've been, I've scribbled down three things that I just wanted to sort of mention about Texas being friendly.
Sure.
Um, So we talked a little bit before we got in the air about sort of hiking and camping and all of that. And there's this movement. There's a couple of people who are heading up to make what's called the XTX Trail, and it's basically going to be the Pacific Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, but going across the longest part of Texas, sort of down north of Houston, all the
Uh-huh.
way kind of all the way, and then ending kind of in Big Bend, where it
Yeah,
meets
you
New
know what?
Mexico.
Hang on. Wait.
Yeah,
Name that again.
they're calling it the XTX Trail, so cross
I think
Texas.
these guys reached out to me.
No way.
Yeah, yeah, they reached out to me about like
Right.
trying to do a story. That's so funny. I need to follow these guys, follow up.
Small
But yes,
world.
it was that I was like, oh man, that's so cool. That's like the
Yeah.
Pacific Coast Highway like trail and like the
Yeah.
Appalachian Trail and stuff. That I was like, oh wow, that sounds awesome. That's right up my alley. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
so
they're
cool.
trying to make one that's, could be done in the winter when the other
Yeah,
ones, because they
yeah,
go so far north. But again, something you brought up, I think, before we started recording was Arizona, lots of public land.
yeah,
Texas is less than 2% is public land.
yeah.
So they assumed that this trail would be a non-starter because it'd have to go through so much private land.
Hmm.
The guys
Which is very
started,
British.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So they started reaching out to all these landowners and said, look, we're wanting to cut through just the tiny bottom bit of your ranch, your 50 acres. What do we have to do to convince you to let us to do this? And they said to a person, every single person said, you don't have to do a thing. We're in.
That's
We're in.
amazing.
They
Because
said
like,
to a soul. Now, there's part of and I don't even think this is skeptical, but part of them was like, well, we can build a small shelter, run some water down there, bring some food, and charge people $20 a night just to camp at the end of our land, make a little money. There's nothing wrong with that. But the other side of it is they're like, no, this is Texas. We look out for each other. That's literally just land at the very end of our acreage. Why would we, as long as people don't leave,
Yeah. I
they
mean,
pack in
like,
and pack out, what's
yeah.
the problem?
Rambling
Yeah.
rules, man. It's like
Yeah,
trying to
exactly.
explain, like, that's my wife loves it.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to explain that to sort of like, like Americans and stuff, like Texans especially. It's like, no, 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 we've got in the
Yeah.
UK, we've got these rambling routes that have existed for thousands of years.
Right.
It's just they are there. And it goes like, so there are farms, but there'll be there'll be what do we call them? Stiles, right? To get
Yep.
over the electric fence
Yep.
that keeps in,
Yep.
and all these different sort of ones that you could do. And like, no, you can walk. Now, you can't go off the trail, but you're
Right.
allowed to walk on that trail. So you can go and walk around the countryside. The countryside's there for everybody.
Right.
And they're like, what? Like, that's crazy. So I'm loving that side of the story because
Yeah.
I always joke. I said, that's the shame about Texas. Like, you get on someone's land, it's like, shh, shh, get off.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love that people are up for it because,
Yeah.
I think that would be such a cool idea. And you're damn right. Is that the enterprising Texan, like, no, man, we could like build a shack down there and like we can run you power in no time. We'll get some water. And it's like, yeah, you can bunk. And it's kind of like when I was trekking in Nepal with my dad and my uncle and my cousin. And you're on the side of these sort of like, we were in the Himalayan lowlands. One of the most incredible experiences of my life is like camping, like just walking among like these mountains that are as high as planes fly. And it's just like you've never seen mountains till you've seen the Himalayas. But is just that we go, all right, you start here and we're going to walk, going to do a few thousand feet and then we're going to end up at this place. But when you get there, someone's built like a stone bunkhouse with a bed and you can get a beer and they'll make you some fried rice and you can put your head down and then the next day move on to the next lodge. And it was just, I mean, I when I talk about like, because people always ask, they go, what's the best place you've ever been? And I go, it's a three-way tie for my favorite places. It's Vietnam, Oman, and Nepal are the ones that I just remember with. And it's like, you ask me, I mean, like I can name another, 48 places that I think were incredible as well. But they're the ones that really stuck in my memory. Oman for the people and just feeling like it was just such a wonderful culture, wonderful people. Felt like the real Middle East in so many ways.
Right.
Istanbul is the best long weekend city I've ever been to, by the way. But Nepal is seeing the mountains was incredible. And then I went to Tiger Tops before it shut down, but it was like elephant back safari, trying to find tigers, incredible. And then Vietnam, I got to do Saigon, I got to do the Mekong Delta, Hanoi, I love with all the French influence, and I even got to do like Ha Long Bay, which are these big like limestone cliffs that come out the water, and I got to do deep water soloing, so climbing without ropes. And then once you get, the only way down is to jump into the water.
Right.
Awesome. And like, so those are the ones that just, the memories for me are just so incredible and just so like, man, my wife and I joke that we lived our life in reverse. Everyone's like, well, you got to work your whole life. Her dad, he's old, no, a lot of just the old way of thinking. No, go work for a company, put in your 35 years, and then retire and travel the world. And I'm like, yeah, well, you retire and you're too old to travel. So my wife and I'm like, no, we're young and we're fit. Let's go. And so we both did like 50 countries. She was a top model for 28 years. She met me when she was 29. So she'd already lived a life before she even met me. I was 23 when we met.
Right.
I was just in the middle of getting started on this adventure. And then we both got into TV and modeling and we did TV shows together. But like, we just, I mean, I sometimes photos pop up on our screensaver on our TV because it's connected to my wife's Google Photos. And we're like, oh yeah, we went to that country. Like I've been literally to so many countries I can't remember. That's
beautiful thing, a beautiful quote unquote problem to have.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that my wife, it's definitely my wife and I say that the one thing is that if we died tomorrow, we would have no regrets. There's nothing like I wish we'd done that. There's so many things we still want to do,
of course.
But we've both been so lucky and lived a life and seen so much, and it's like it's something I've have these conversations with my nieces and nephews to try and just inspire them. And like, some of them they've really sort of taken it on board and they've become quite adventurous and want to go and see. And then my two kids as well, they're taking gap years. We're going to send them my parents live in Thailand. Most of my family lives in London. They've got godfathers that live in Singapore. And I'm like, and my daughter is Singaporean. So we adopted my daughter when she was 3. And so, I was like, guys, just trust me, take a gap year. Because Americans don't do that.
Right.
And it's like, And I try to explain to them. I go, look at it this way. You've always lived in the same sort of town. Like most of my wife's family still live in the same town, and most of them have never left. All right.
Right.
My wife saw the world. She's like the black sheep of the black family, right? So that's
Right.
the family name. And so, but you've grown up in this town. You've gone through from kindergarten, middle school, high school with these same kids, working around the same town. By the end of that, you know where you're going to college, if you're going to college, or you're going to go and work for your family's business. And this is where, and then you're married, and now you've got kids, and this is it, and you're going to live here. And I go, look, there's no problem with that. In fact, it's a wonderful life. It's just not for me. But it's like, like I told you, I was going to join the RAF and fly jets until I took a gap year.
Right.
And I just jumped into the unknown. And I went to a place I didn't know. And I've always been a yes, let's do that. And my wife's the same. Was like, why not? Let's go. And so I fell into modeling, which then fell into television, which then took me around the world, then got me to America, and then brought me to Texas. And then it's become, creating videos and telling stories. And it's just like, you've got to say yes. My nephews would be like, they'd be asking me questions. I go, well, where am I going to stay? I go, you figure it out when you get there. Like, if you have to have every answer to every question you can think of before you go somewhere, you're never going to go. I said, you should buy a ticket is what you should do. And you should have a list of things you want to do. But as far as like land, figure it out. You're young, you could go backpacking. Like you said, you could be staying in dorms. And when you go backpacking, well, who are you going to meet? A whole bunch of people doing the exact same thing you're doing. And so now you're making friends with a bunch of adventurous people. And now you're going off on adventures. And that's going to be like, I said to my kids, I said, look, you're going to take a gap year. You may not come back.
Right.
You might find a country you decide, no, I'm going to stay here for 6 months. Like I said, I went to Singapore for 2 weeks. I had a 2-week trip planned. It went to 11 years before I left.
Isn't that just
because? And it's like, my wife's thing, this is her mantra that she tells the kids and anyone else. Goes, what's on the other side of fear? Everything you've ever wanted.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And it reminds me of, there's probably some people who use the word lucky when they describe your life. And I don't claim this by any means because I've read it somewhere, but I wish I could remember where. And it said that luck is simply where preparation meets opportunity.
That's the one.
That's the one. And it's like, I think about that a lot. So actually part of the reason for doing this podcast is I want to put myself in a position. I want to learn how to do this. Mm-hmm. So if an opportunity ever comes around, I'm prepared.
You just go, that's honestly, I used to call myself lucky a lot. And it was somebody else that I was doing some sort of interview or some talk. I can't remember who it was. Yeah. But they are the one that taught me that. They said, no, Ollie, you're not lucky. Luck is just preparation and opportunity. Yeah. And I was like, it was a very freeing thing, actually, because I guess I hadn't given myself any credit. I go, well, I guess I'm just, And they're like, no, Ollie, you work very hard at what you do. And you're very good at doing TV. And you get these jobs because of these reasons, but also because you go, yeah. I'm always like, yeah, I'm up for it. Well, let's go for it. I mean, we moved to America. My wife and I were the husband and wife couple. We were like big TV celebrities. We were like front rows of fashion, fashion week. We like Gucci would send us Christmas presents. We like just free stuff and any event. I didn't pay for a glass of champagne for over a decade. You're just meeting like, oh, wow, like big celebrities would come in and doing the Formula One and she's interviewing Lewis Hamilton and I'm in the Red Bull pits, all this kind of stuff. Right. What a life. But Singapore is like the most expensive place in the world to live. And we're foreigners. That my wife figured out that she brought the piece of paper to me basically. It says, Ollie, we are, $250,000 is zero. That's where we start. Once we've made $250,000, we're at zero. Right. And then everything else is up. So I was like, we always wanted a home. We wanted a place to live. And so we were like subsistence celebrities. We made enough money but to live a life and live in Singapore, but we're paying rent. The kids' kindergarten was 60 grand for 2 kids. A Toyota Prius, brand new off the lot in Singapore, is $150,000 because you have to pay for 110 grand for permission to buy a car. If I want to buy an apartment, it's $5 million, 20% down. If I want a house, it's $20 million, 20% down. I'm like, where am I going to get that kind of money? Right. We moved to Texas 11 years ago and bought a house with 2.6 acres for less than a Toyota Prius cost.
Isn't it just wild? Yeah.
So because I wanted my kids to grow up in a house. And this is my wife and I live in like a dream house. Like it's a lovely little,
Right.
it's just, it's got character. It's got a
Yeah.
wraparound porch. It's on a back road, off a back road, off a back road. It's got trees. It's got land. I've got a long driveway. You can't even see my house from the road. And it's kind of like the Texas version of where I grew up in the UK. My wife finally got it when we went to the UK. She's like, "This is where you grew up in a house like that?" I go, "Yeah, I was kind of in the country." And like, I know, she goes, "I thought you were a city boy." And I go, "I mean, I get it. I'm born in Hong
Yeah.
Kong and we met in Singapore and I'm very good in cities, but actually I grew up in the English countryside." And so,
Right.
so this is actually a lot more my vibe. And so it's just, I could still be in Singapore now. A lot of my friends still are. They're still working in the industry, and I would be. I would still be working TV shows. I would be traveling the world, but I wouldn't have anything to show for it.
Right.
Whereas like here, it's like, no, well, here I've got a family and I've got a home,
Right.
I've
A
got
place to
dogs,
come home to every
I've got a
night. And
chicken.
yeah.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
chicken?
So, but we made this decision to move at the
Right.
peak of our career, and we made the decision in 30 seconds flat, and we were out of the country in 5 weeks.
Isn't
We
that
just
amazing?
we
Just
liquidated our lives. And like I say we, but we made the decision. It was to do an insurance thing about like so my son's on the spectrum, and like
right.
you'd never know now. He's crushing everything right now, just crushing life. I'm so proud of him. But he was pretty like he had a lot, it took a lot to get him there, and he worked really hard, but as a kid, and it just we found out it wasn't going to cover anything. And basically, if we figured out that the plan had been to move in April, and this was in December.
Hmm.
And we're like, if we move in the next 4 weeks, we'll save $70,000. We're like,
Right.
so we just went, so we came out of a meeting, we looked at each other, go, so I guess we're moving to America? Yep.
Right.
And I was like, well, okay, baby. I'm off for 4 weeks of overseas shooting because I had 3 TV shows to go and do. So I was
Right.
gone. I come back and she has either sold or packed up everything in our house and shipped it by herself. She is a Wonder Woman, that woman.
That's amazing.
But that's what we did. And then we just leapt. I mean, honestly, the first 9 months, I didn't even still have my green card. It took 18 months to get my green card. So I spent 9 months living in Texas, working in Singapore. I still was doing my TV shows. So I was
Right.
flying every 10 days or so, 33 hours each
Goodness.
way, to Singapore and back just to work. And it saved us $19,000 a month doing that. I commuted from Texas to Singapore.
Right. How many people can say that?
Yeah,
That's
wild, right? I don't know. Honestly, I sometimes we tell our stories, and then when I start actually listening to myself, and I go, "Are we out of our minds?" Like
right.
in retrospect, it's like, "Are we crazy?" And I'm like, "Well,
Right.
maybe." But
Maybe.
it's
Maybe.
not. It's definitely not been boring. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I've got currently an 11-minute commute door to door on my bicycle. That's which is very un-Texan of me
Yeah,
to ride a bicycle to work.
I think my
Uh,
easiest commute ever was COVID because my show was very right this minute. We saw the writing on the wall. We shut down. I remember Friday the 13th, March 13th, 2022, 2020. When was COVID? 2020, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
really, yeah.
Yeah. So, but we were back up and running within 2 weeks. In fact, all the equipment I'm talking to you on, camera, laptop, screen, I've got all this. This is how we made the TV show with this.
I love
And
that.
I even had a little green screen that I could pull up, right? Get this all this kind of stuff. But we did the show lasted the whole of COVID. So we were back up and running before most shows even shut down the first time. And then
Hmm.
they shut down and they couldn't figure it out. We figured out how the show to be almost exactly the same, but we're doing it through, we even get more efficient. So it went from being 7 hours of production to 2 hours of production. So I'm only working
Right.
2 hours a day, and my commute was in like comfy pants, walking
Yeah.
up the stairs to the spare bedroom, making my TV show, and then coming downstairs and hanging out with the family. And honestly, like we were so lucky during COVID because we actually like each other as a family. And
Right.
my children were like, 13, 14, could be a troubling time. And we sat them down right at the beginning of COVID that day, March 13th, and we briefed them. And we said, all right, guys, anyone that says you're going back to school in 6 weeks is lying. We said, there's
Right.
going to be a vaccine in about 18 months. And well, how do we know? Because of every pandemic in history. We took
Right.
the history of the Spanish flu from the early 1900s and go, this is what's going to happen. Things will probably get back to normal in about 2 years. And the way I explained it to them was we just watched Lost in Space on Netflix, so it's a
Yes.
family on a spaceship. And it's like the whole point of the show in a way is that everyone on that ship has something to bring to the table. And I said, guys, we're on the spaceship Pettigrew right now. And every single one of us has something to bring. And so we're going to help each other. We're going to respect each other. Like we're going to learn from each other. And fast forward 2 years, 2 years of COVID with two teenagers in the house, right? Not one raised voice, not one slammed door, not one argument, not one fight, nothing. Just
Beautiful.
just amazing children. At the end of COVID, I was like, guys, I mean, I brag about them all the time, like about this, but I was like, guys, like just from, I couldn't have done it as a teenager. I was terrible. Why do you think I was in boarding school? So
Right.
from me to you, from a dad to my children, thank you so much. You guys crushed it.
I love that. Yeah, my wife and I are both in education, so our commute was, yeah, one to the office, one to the dining room, so we
Right.
could teach virtually.
Yeah. Oh, that
Um,
must have been tough, man.
it was a challenge because we're both in elementary school,
Oh,
or
yeah.
we both were in elementary school. So you mean you've got, I was teaching third grade at the time, so 8 year olds. It's
Oh,
it was
herding cats, mate.
virtually, yeah, it
Yeah.
was really something. I'm glad, obviously, wish the pandemic didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. But it was an experience,
Yeah.
so it's something that we look back on as a family and go, man, I get, like you said, did we really do that?
Yeah. What a
You
wild
know?
time to think about. And,
Yeah,
just the kids every now and again bring it up and just like, yeah, remember when we stayed inside for 18 months? I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, man, wild.
And things that seemed normal, I guess, rapidly they were normal, like the
Yeah.
way we would shop and the way we would do
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah,
now
well,
it
it's
just
like the
seems,
way you adapt. Exactly, you adapt to
yeah,
such. It's the way you see people going about everyday life. Like in war zones and stuff. It's like, all
yeah,
right, I'm gonna go shopping and I dodge the sniper. It's like human beings are very adaptable people, and it's crazy what a sort of a new normal can be. And it's like sometimes it seems like the world's moving so quickly, and I think sometimes it feels like it's not changing at all.
we
It's
had
wild.
we had
Yeah.
a chap at our school, the last elementary school that I worked in, and this sounds like a sort of sordid or weird story, but it's got a lovely ending. There was a guy and we didn't know who he was, and he was taking pictures of kids as they were leaving school.
Right.
And a teacher came in and found me and said, "Would you go talk to this guy? Because that's
That
creepy
sounds weird.
behavior.
Yeah.
We're not doing that." So I went outside and spoke to the guy, and man, it almost makes me choke up sort of talking about it. Him and his family were refugees from Ukraine, and he's like, "Look, he's like, I forgot that you can't do this." He said, "I'm just sending pictures back to my family, showing them my kids are safe. And look at this wonderful, safe place. They can walk outside. They can
Mm.
actually walk out of the building and we can walk home together. And I just wanted to show my parents that my kids are safe."
Oh man.
And I was like, oh, rip my heart out. He's like, "Of
Yeah.
course, I'm going to show you, I'm going to delete the pictures now." And the pictures were
Mhm.
all of his kids with other kids in the background. There was nothing sordid
Yeah.
or weird about it. But it was
It's
like he
it's amazing the
forgot.
things you
Yeah,
take for granted as
yeah,
well. I mean, I think
yeah,
that's another part of what travel taught me is
yeah,
that, I have, like I said, at the beginning when we're talking how we all have so much in common is that there
yeah,
are people when you don't leave anywhere, you never leave your town or you never leave your country, you can just lose any kind of sympathy, empathy, or understanding for other people and their way of life. And it's only when you sort of travel and you realize, oh, just because someone is Muslim does not mean they want you to die. Hindu
right.
doesn't mean anything from a different country. Like I said, these people they're just like you, and they're
Yeah,
human beings. And it's like it's like the demonization of the other is something
uh-huh,
that but I've always been the other. When
right.
I was in Hong Kong growing up, everyone around me looked different from me when I was around the city, right? And then I'm in England, well, I'm the other because I'm the kid from Hong Kong. Singapore,
Right.
I'm an expat, I'm an immigrant. Here, I've been an immigrant. I've spent more of my life as an immigrant in other places than anything else. And so,
Right.
that's the thing is that the one thing I didn't like in Singapore when people would say this, and honestly, people don't really say it here in the States. Very rare. It was more common in Asia, but it still is implied a lot that they go, I say, well, I'm an immigrant. They go, yeah, but you're one of the good ones. And I'm just
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
to be quite honest, what they're saying is you're a white guy. And then
Right.
they meant the
Right.
same in Singapore. Honestly, it was so bonkers to me that the Singaporean Chinese were most like racist towards the Chinese. The mainland
Right.
Chinese is ones that they just like say, no, you're cool, you're all right. I'm like, no, well, but I just don't. That's not my mindset.
Right.
I'm always like I said, I've always been in the other. I've been around the other my whole life. But another part of what I say is that when you do move to a country or a place, that you have to embrace it and become a part of it. don't try. Like, it's nothing that drives me crazier than when I see like protests from immigrant communities in a country going, this country shouldn't do this. Well, hang on. You came to
Right.
this country. This is
Right.
how the country works. Deal with it. That's why you
Right.
came. No, we're not. We're not going to cater to this because you brought.
Right.
No, no, no. And that's maybe the most controversial thinking that I have because I'm a pretty open guy. But like,
Right.
when I moved to Singapore, we learn the culture and the people and the language and the food. And then we moved to
Right.
Arizona and we got into the lifestyle and the camping. When I came to Texas, I'm like I said, I'm like a walking Texas like history book now. And
Right.
like, look at how I'm dressed. And I
Right.
drive the pickup truck and I've got a blue healer and I've got a shotgun and I live in the country. And I'm like, no, man, you got to lean into it. You've got to learn from the cultures that you live in because that's what's so wonderful about the world is the variety of it all.
It's you remind me. You probably if you've only heard of him, you may well have read. Bill Bryson, the author,
Yes,
who
Bill Bryson. I've read a couple of his books. Yeah.
yeah, and he talks in one of his books. I forget. I've read. I love his work. I've read all his books. I forget which one it is, but he talks a lot about kind of being stuck in the middle because he was raised in Iowa. His
Hmm.
dad was a baseball reporter, so the most American of American pastimes. He went from baseball stadium to baseball stadium. His core childhood memories are riding his bicycle around Des Moines, Iowa. Yet he moved to the UK when I think he was 20 or 21. So like he bought his first house, his first home repairs, all this kind of stuff he does in a British way. So he uses the British words for things because stuff like household repairs, when you learn the terminology for the stuff under a sink, he
Yeah.
learned those as an English guy because that was his dad's responsibilities when he was growing up, so he didn't learn
Yeah.
that language. And so he's always felt like a hybrid of both,
Yeah.
which
That's the
is
funniest thing for me
interesting.
now. I've
Yeah.
I often say is there are certain words that are pronounced American or British, right?
Hmm.
I mean like adversary, adversary, things like that.
Yeah.
I cannot remember.
Which is which.
Yep.
Yep, I'm in
So
the
so
same boat.
like so it's like I genuinely can't. People ask me, I go, I don't know.
Right.
This is what I say now, and then I talk to my brothers, and they're like, "Why are you saying it like that?" And I go, "Oh shit." So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, if I ever move back to the UK, I don't think I ever will, but if I did,
Right.
people are just for the longest time are going to be like, "Where are you from, man?" I go,
Yeah.
"I'm
You're that
sorry."
American guy. Will be
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I mean, I've got the hard R's now, like R.
Right.
Like if I get lazy, and my wife hates it. She's like, "Man, I married a British person."
Right.
But I used to have such a posh British accent because I was a British boarding school. We played rugby quite literally against Prince William. You know what I mean? I was on the
Right.
sidelines. I was like, "Well played, sire. Good tackle,
Right.
my liege." And then I saw the security guys looking at me, and I go, "I'm gonna go that way."
That's right. So I'm
But
going to bow out of
but
this.
but quite literally, like I said, Prince William would come and play rugby at our school, and so I used to if I concentrate, I think I can get my English accent back. It was very
Right. Isn't it
but
funny?
it's like, but I just think my accent is just reflective of my life,
And
and
there's
where I
something
live.
beautiful about that, I think.
Yeah.
And the way I see it, I'm on a couple of like British people in Texas or the US Facebook pages, and man, I swear nothing really grinds my gear in a very shallow way. This is not a serious thing at all. Than people going, "Oh, that's the way Americans say it." "Oh, I hate the word soccer because that's an American thing." But of course, if you look in the entomology is the right
Yes.
word. Yeah,
I
it's
did a
all the
video about
same.
it. Yeah,
Right,
it's
it's all
actually
the same.
where does
Soccer,
soccer come from?
especially
Association.
association football.
Yeah, right. And it's
Yeah,
otherwise it would have been ass. So they were let's go
yeah,
to the next three letters. So let's go with
yeah.
sock. Okay. It would have been asser. Could you imagine that? Let's go play some asser. So yeah, we'll
Right.
go soccer. Soccer sounds better. But
It
yeah,
just, I
I've
think
forgotten so much.
tiresome. I think like aluminium and
I'll
aluminum.
never give up aluminium though. That is
Right.
the hill I die on.
No, they are spelled differently.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
then
I
aluminum
could.
did come from the UK as well. But yeah, it's aluminium. It always will be.
Yeah,
But
that's the one. But I say pants instead of trousers. I say
right,
you've heard me say college.
right.
All these kind of things. And like
You
there's
threw
so
out a Z earlier. You maybe didn't realize it.
yes. Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I
Z.
do too. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's and then sometimes the things that sometimes I lie awake thinking about is like, is it me or is it the fact the world is now so small? Because
yeah.
even my sisters and things back home, they swear that kids these days, like kids these days, young kids will have almost American accents in the
Yep.
UK because they're being raised on TikTok or this,
Yeah,
that, and the
well,
other.
I
Yeah,
talked about that very thing to my daughter once, and I was
yeah,
talking about the homogenization of society with,
yeah.
with the prevalence of the internet and social media. And she's like, "What do you mean?" I go, "Man, when I was a kid, you could spot a French kid by their
Oh yeah,
haircut and
right,
the way they
right,
dress, right, and the way
right.
Germans dress, and like so I explained to them, I said, your country's culture was all you grew up, and like, and if you were in a
Yes,
country and you only lived in that town was all of the culture that you got. Now
yep,
you got access to certain things by watching BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4, and we'd watch Michael Palin travel the world, but every
right.
country he went to, and he's in Sudan, it looks a certain way. He's in Egypt, they dress a certain way. Like, everything in Korea and Japan, everything's so different. Whereas now they're seeing, my daughter is fans of all these K-pop people, right?
I
And
was
they've got this
just thinking about
style.
K-pop. Yeah.
And it's like, so you've got this vibe and the music that is like people all around the world, because again, music would be regional.
Hmm.
And so, back when people wouldn't, it was so hard for British acts to cross over, to the States. They didn't like it. Remember, they rejected Robbie Williams. They rejected differently, but the Beatles did it. And it's again, so you'd be in France and they'd have this whole sort of like, oh, they've got French rap and all this kind of stuff. But now you've got global Beyonce's, you've got Taylor Swift's, and it's like
Right.
it's much like you said, is that is something I find a little sad, is that the homogenization of society means that when I go to a place, it's a little less its place and it's a little more global, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
So
There's
yeah, it's
ups and
funny
downs.
you bring that up. This almost going full circle back to our pre-recording conversation about this book and TV show about the first overland and the last overland. And again, I'm not claiming this because I've read it somewhere, but it's really the era of being able to explore somewhere completely new is
Yeah, a
gone.
frontier.
Yeah,
Yes.
there is no final frontier anymore because
Yeah.
everywhere is a click of a mouse away, and
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing in so many ways, and we're well-rounded
Yeah.
and but
It's like
but
it's like all of these it's
yeah,
all of these incredible places that you had to sort of buy a guidebook to
oh
know
yeah,
about, and then you go to a country and you'd be there and you'd hear about it and you'd know, oh, I know how to get there. And now it's
mm,
like it's Instagrammable. And it's
all of
like you
it.
go to these places that used to be secret, or you used to have to
Hmm.
put the effort in to find, and you turn up now, like you see these videos of these, like it's just a line of people waiting to take their Instagram picture
Right.
and just to post it. And I'm like, oh man, like I said, we so you and I are part of this micro generation that I think is one of the like
Yeah.
we're called Zennials, and it's
Right.
like we were raised Gen X, but we speak fluent millennial. And so we are the
Right.
crossover generation. We played Pong. I was had a Commodore
Yes.
64. We were at the
Yep.
beginning of the computers and the internet, but then the internet was a thing by the time we're going through college. And then, we had the first cell phones and everything. So like we were analog kids that became digital on the way. Like millennials were like digital
Yeah.
from what they can like, they were pretty much digital. And I think it's kind of like it's the last sort of best of it, I think, because
I think so.
there was still adventure. It was still weird, to go to a country like when I was 12 and going to Hong Kong or going to France, the south of France or Spain and stuff like that. And it's still there. I mean, it's still wonderful and travel is an amazing thing. But, hearing my dad's adventures in Hong Kong, in the 70s, before there was like tunnels and stuff, and if you got trapped on the island if you missed the last car ferry, or listening to my grandfather, like he did a bunch of recordings for the Imperial War Museum, and then he wrote a memoir that my uncles and my cousin worked on and sent to every member of the family. It's him. It's called It Seemed Very Ordinary. It's called, and it's him at the ages of 18 to 25 on the Northwest frontier and in India, just serving, as an officer, and how long it took to go through the Red Sea and all the way around, and having to turn the ship sideways and open all the doors to vent it, and turning up in India, and it just being all very interesting and strange and adventurous. And
Hmm.
it was so cool reading that book. And sometimes he's saying words that I've said myself, and just going, oh man, it's just like it's so cool to be, this family. We have such an adventurous spirit,
I
and
love
just
that.
to see it go down from generation to generation to generation, and see my children sort of having the same adventurous spirit as well is really cool. But it's like, yeah, just reading those, what a time, back then, you send a letter, it'll take 6 weeks. If you need to
Yeah.
travel home, it'll take 2 months. you can't just jump on a plane and do it, and you just had to go and see it. And I feel like I got a lot of that experience working in TV and going to these places, and just, I'm in jungles, I'm in rainforests, I'm on the side of mountains, I'm just like going, wow, I can't believe I'm here doing this. How
Right.
cool,
Yeah. Do you
so
ever
many of those.
sometimes get that feeling? I feel like you do. Like this once in a while, I'll go. I'm just a wee boy from Glasgow,
Yeah.
and I'm here,
Yeah, yeah,
wherever that place may
all the
be.
time, all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Even
Like it's
just
very
fishing on the
humbling.
Gulf this past
Right.
weekend, and it's
Right.
like, wow, what a cool memory. Caught my
Right.
first fish after 44 years. I caught a Spanish mackerel out on the ocean.
Right.
Cool, tick. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Tick that on the box of things that I've done in my life.
Right.
It's like I was going to, like, last week, my truck died. He's come back. Texas was very invested. Steve the truck. Um,
It's on my list of last things to ask you is how
yeah.
Stevie is.
Steve is doing great.
Yeah.
He had a terminal diagnosis, but actually came back from the brink. He's not giving up. He's a Toyota.
Right.
So he's back up and running. But it happened the day before I was planning on. I just was getting the jitters of I'm gonna go. And my wife Zen, she's like, "Where?" And I go, "I don't know. I'm either gonna drive that way to Amarillo, or I'm gonna drive that way to Caddo, and I'm gonna see what I can get into, and I'll find a place to stay, and I'll see how many days I'm gone." And then the truck died, and so I've had to deal with all that. But it's just sometimes I get that sort of thing, and I go, all right, well, what are you gonna do? I'm just gonna drive on this road and see where it goes, and then I'm gonna take a turn. I'm gonna see where that goes, and by the time I get tired, I'm either gonna sleep in the truck or I'm gonna find a little motel. And it's like, it's definitely the privilege of being like a man,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
44, that, like, I don't care if I sleep in some shitty little place,
Right.
like on the side of a road in El Paso, which I have done. Costs $30 for a reason, but it's like,
Right.
I'm fine.
Right.
I can make it through this. Would I ask my daughter to do the same thing? No.
Not a chance.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I would like, no, baby, you're going to spend a little bit extra money and you're going to go into the city and you'll be much better. But that's just, I always have that sense of adventure. And the best thing I think with my wife and I is that so does she.
Isn't
She,
that perfect? See, my wife is not, she's more of a homebody, but
Mhm,
what we've discovered is a perfect blend of
mhm.
things we can do together, and it actually brings out the best in both of us. Your story kind of reminds me of, comedian Craig Ferguson,
Yep.
um, Scottish guy, of course, but been here for decades. But he said that he used to, when he first moved here and really, started getting work, I think he moved and failed, quote unquote, into to the States twice, had to go back penniless back to Glasgow, made it the third time. And then he would always build, he had to go back from LA to New York a lot doing
Hmm.
work, but he built into his schedule whenever he could to drive it. And he would always take a different route. And he made it a policy to not stop and refuel within 10 miles of the highway
Oh, cool.
because he was like, I'm going to see these different
Yeah,
places. So don't just pull off and back on, 10 miles off, 10 miles back on,
that's cool. I
which I
mean,
love
yeah,
that.
that's kind of like, it's amazing how many times I go to a place or do a story about Texas and Texans are like, I had no idea. I live
Yeah.
I live 30 minutes from this place my entire life, never heard of it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. It's like just start driving on farm to market routes,
Yeah.
take run. I've got a video coming next week, talking about this very thing because I had
Right.
a meeting down in Burnett. So I drove 100 miles to take a meeting and drove 100 miles back just taking country roads. Say that to a British, tell that to me like even like 10 years ago. What are you, out of your mind? And
Right.
now it's just like, no, no. And like I used to be driving on the motorway at 120 miles an hour and get my journey done as quick as possible. Whereas now
Yeah.
I'm like, no, no, taking farm to market roads. I'm going to tootle along at 60 miles an hour and see what I can find and just have a nice drive. And it's
So
just, what's the
we did
rush?
that 2 years. My wife's from New Jersey.
Oh, cool.
We sat, and there's times we'll fly it, but the negative thing about being a teacher is the salary. The pro is we have time off in the summer.
Right.
So a couple of times we've driven up, and two or three times we've just gone A to B. It's 20 hours. But the last time we drove up, we took a week getting there, and we drove a completely different route. And one of my favorite memories is we went, I mean, way off the beaten track to, again, this farm road in the middle of nowhere. And it was where, I'm going to get the states wrong, Michigan, Ohio, and what was the other state? Indiana, I
Okay.
believe.
Yes.
Indiana.
Well done.
It's the only place where the three of them meet. And it is this, I mean, the tiniest of tiny country roads. And there's just a little stone plaque in the middle of the road.
Oh, we did
That's,
the
this is
same.
where the three meet. And it took
It's a
us
four
about
corners.
yeah, yeah, but I've done the four corners. It's like that, but there's nothing that GPS didn't work. We went down the wrong
Yeah.
road. We literally had to park the car and just walk up and down the road and look for this square, and we found it. And so we took a picture of the two of us in 3 states, as you do. You have
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
that, and it's like that's one of my favorite memories. Like,
We did the same
yeah,
thing. We were driving to Colorado for July 4th, and we had to
yeah,
go. Of course, you're going through. I want to say it's native land. I was going to say Navajo, but I don't want to commit to it. But it was native
right,
land, and then Four Corners is right in the middle of it, where you got
yes,
Colorado and Arizona and the other two. I forget New
yes,
Mexico and one other one. And
yeah.
I remember my son just like going, "I'm in." I'm in Arizona. I'm in New Mexico. It was just a fun, but they made it like a stop and it's got like stores and stuff. So it's kind of fun
Yes,
to me that one is like, no, you got to find it, you know?
exactly. I've been when I did the Four Corners, I was so disappointed because I think it was an early Sunday morning, and there was all the little stalls, but there was
Yeah.
nobody there. I was
Yeah.
like,
Ours was
oh,
pretty
because it was
empty.
too,
Yeah.
it was empty. But yeah, this one it's the same but completely different because
Kind
you
of like
have
the
to.
Rose line in
Oh,
Paris, those little markers. My son was
yes,
really interested in finding those when we were in Paris.
yeah, I love that stuff that's kind of hidden in plain sight,
My
but
son is
just yeah,
obsessed with history. He loves history. Like
yeah,
that's the coolest thing. He spends a lot of time online, but he's a creator himself. He's got his own monetized YouTube channel. Like he wouldn't say two words to people, but he produces hour-long videos where he's doing all the voiceovers and stuff. But
I
whenever I'm
love
next
that.
to him, he's watching just history and learning history and doing all this cool stuff and interesting facts. And he's like comes and goes, Dad, do you know this? I had no idea. I mean, something we
Right.
did, like I know we've been going long, but I'll tell you one last cool story.
Yeah.
Like this is a tip that I give to people who have got kids. It's something we used to do during the pandemic, but we started doing cultural exchange days. So we would
Right.
sit down on the sofa on a Saturday afternoon and we would all connect our phones to YouTube and we would just show videos. So to start with, like my wife and I were showing like, all right, guys, we're going to show you like back when we were kids, MTV showed music, and so you'd sit around all day and watch music videos. And I know you can do that on YouTube now, but like I said, we were going, but we'd start playing like, oh, this is Madonna, and this is like Guns N' Roses, and then our daughter was like, okay, well, this is a K-pop band I like, and we're like, okay, and then we're like, oh, these guys are cool. And so we start learning about her K-pop bands. And then my daughter, like, she's like really into things like the Deftones and things like she likes all this old
Right.
school music. And then my son was trying to put these videos, like these Minecraft videos, and we're like, okay, buddy. But there was this like he teed up this video that was like an hour long, 45 minutes long. We're like, no, no, buddy, like something like 5 minutes long, something like so
Right.
eventually, like after a couple of acts, like, all right, buddy, okay, bang it on. All right, cool. We'll
Right.
watch your 45-minute video. All right, we're gonna do it, but just afterwards, you get it? All right. So we sit down. It's this channel called Oversimplified. It's an animated history channel that tells the whole everything, the Napoleonic War, the Pig War, the American like Civil War, just I mean everything, Waterloo, you name it, right? It's done animated. It's done quite quickly, but it's very good. It's very well done. It's very informative, and it takes you through all of it. It's just oversimplified in a way, but it's got this sort of sense of humor to it. We watched that one, and we're like, all of us, that's great. Put another one on.
Right.
That's great. We did 6 hours of just watching Oversimplified. We've now watched every single video on that YouTube channel. It takes 9 months for a video to come out. So we're all now eagerly awaiting
Ah, that's
this
the
next one to
worst.
land. But it's like, but that's what I mean is like we did this cultural exchange and like, no, we listened to my son. He's like, no, trust me, we did. He was right. And it's like, so sit down with your kids. If you've got, you got kids, sit down, take like, all right, guys, you know, get some snacks and popcorn. Everyone log in on your phones to YouTube. Everyone gets a video. Everyone gets a video. And you'd be surprised where you all end up because it really helped us connect as a family and learn from each other.
That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I love it. Well, I've got three quick questions to ask
Sure.
because I could sit and talk to you for hours, and I hope we can do this again.
You
But I'm
bet,
going to
mate.
ask you three quick questions as we wrap this up. Um, if you could visit a fictional place, what place might it be?
Wow.
I'm going to catch
That's
you
a
off guard here.
no, I'd say, honestly, let's say, okay, I know the answer because my wife and I say this is what we kind of want. It's sort of quasi-fictional, but yeah, no, visit a place. Honestly, I would actually want to visit the USS Enterprise. I would like to live in space on a ship that goes to find new things.
I
That's
love it.
that's what I would want to do, and like I'd also like to live in that society, a post scarcity society with holodecks and all that kind of stuff. But my wife and I love Star Trek. We love Lower Decks. The animated one is so fun and so funny, and it treats Star Trek with such reverence at the same time. So that's yeah, that's kind of what I would do. Is actually I would bounce into that crazy future and I would live on that spaceship and I would go on adventures and see the world,
That's
the universe.
that is one of the best answers I've had. I love it. Um, all right, you've just won $10,000, but no adulting is allowed. You're not allowed to pay bills, put it in the kids' college fund, all that stuff. None of that stuff. You got to do something that qualifies as fun. What are we doing with that $10,000?
I was like 10,000 isn't quite enough to do what I would want to.
I bet.
Yeah, no, because like honestly, the first time I ever have any play money ever in my life, that what I want to do is buy the Trans Am from Smokey and the Bandit.
I love
This
it.
thing, it's just you'll know. Or I've always said like, or well, you'll know when I've won the lottery because I'm suddenly going to have all these cool cars from movies and TV shows. But I've always
Right.
said I want to buy the 1976 Dodge Charger from Dukes of Hazzard. But
Yes.
you know, instead of having the Confederate flag on top, I was going to put the British flag,
Yeah.
and instead of calling it the General Lee, I'm going to call it the Generally.
The general. That has, if I ever win the lottery, I'm helping you with that
Dude, I would just
endeavor.
like
I'm in.
just turning up at car shows with the Generally.
The general.
I've always wanted to do that, but God, no adulting. 10 grand. You know what I'd do? I'd go and get my skydiving license. I've always wanted to learn
Really?
to be like not just jumping out of planes, but how to jump out of planes properly. So I'd go
Well,
to,
that
to
helps.
skydive. Yeah, right. Yeah, 'cause, yeah, the landing. That's the important part.
Right.
Or I'm not sure if 10 grand's enough. It would be my pilot's license.
You know, it's weird. That's come up more and more in my life recently. A friend of mine's daughter is doing it, and then the university where I work, they just opened a program to get your pilot's license through the
Yeah,
university.
but like I
It's
said,
it's becoming a thing. I
I
don't
wanted to
know.
be a fast jet pilot, you know, so
Yeah.
I've been flying. I've been lucky enough that, you know, I've been up in acrobatic biplanes. I went in a Red Bull Air Race
Uh,
plane with a Red Bull Air Race pilot, and he just threw me around the sky for 15 minutes. Best time of my life. He's like, "You sure you want me to keep going? Because everyone else is sick." And I go, "No, man, do
do
whatever you want."
it.
And then I was really lucky once that I got to fly my friend Christiane, one of my co-hosts on Right This Minute. She learned how to fly. She had a friend who used to be an F-16 pilot that's got a World War II Stearman biplane, and he took me up and he let me fly it. But he goes, "Hey man, you want to do a barrel roll?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, you do.
And so he's
Yeah.
got cameras set up and everything. And I've got this one of my favorite pictures in the world is I'm upside down. I'm flying upside down in a World War II biplane, looking up at the ground with the biggest smile on my face, just going, "This is the
I
best
love
thing."
it. It's one of those things that sounds absolutely terrifying, but in the moment,
Oh,
you got to send it. You got to go all in
oh,
and just
absolutely.
do
Mate,
it.
but that's what I've been saying.
Yeah.
If you adventure is all about saying yes.
Yep. Yeah. The only thing more terrifying than that stuff to me is having the regret of not
Yep,
doing it. You know, that's
that's
it.
exactly right.
I
I've
don't
never
want that regret.
exactly. I don't like living in that state of mind, so I never have.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, the last of these three questions, if you had to choose, or what book, movie, piece of art, piece of music would you say has had a huge impact on your life, and in what way?
You know, funny enough, I joked about it like earlier,
Yeah,
like just now about buying the Smoking the Bandit car, but
yeah,
it's I talk about it a lot is that everything I'd say Smoking the Bandit in a way
right,
because um I kind of grew up American by
right,
watching American movies. So it's like my mum's like, you know, I've got like three boys, that's Simon, Chris, and this is Ollie. He was born American kind of thing. Like that kind of vibe of like
right.
I've always just kind of had that American vibe. And so that was that one that I just watched obsessively as a kid and you know, like living where I am and I came here and I bought my American V8 and it just sounds like a Corvette and it's like I said no joke if I had the money that's the first thing I'd do is I'd buy that car and
Yeah,
I've got the cowboy hat I've got everything like I said I just need the car
right.
so I'd say that but I would also say just like my favorite book of all time is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. It's a
All
book
right.
in the Middle Ages about building a cathedral and it sounds like the most boring thing ever but I tell you what that's a really really good book.
All right. Well, I'm going to write. I've got my little list of books to read. So that the Pillars of the Earth.
The Pillars of the Earth. I read it in 2 days. It is 1,100 pages long.
Wow.
And I know the way I describe how good it was is I lived in Bath at the time, and this is like before cell phones were really, you had cell phones, but you weren't scrolling. There weren't
Right.
smartphones.
Right.
So I'd go to bed and I'd read a book. And I started this book and I read till about 1:32 in the morning. And I'm like, okay, I've got to go to bed. Close the book, put it down, lay in bed for about half an hour thinking about the book, picked it up, read till 7 in the morning, till the sun came up, and eventually, like, okay, I've got to sleep. and the next day did exactly the same thing. I read that book in 2 full nights. I read through the night until the sun came up 2 days in a row to finish that book. And it's, like I said, it's a book set in the Dark Ages about building a cathedral. It's called the Kingsbridge series. I actually the last 2 books I read were the 3rd sequel and the prequel. So now there's 5 books. So it starts in 700 AD and it goes all the way to like 1780. And it's set in this place called Kingsbridge, which is set near Bristol. And it just tells the entire history of how Kingsbridge became Kingsbridge, how the cathedral was built, and then what happened in that town afterwards. Fantastic.
Right.
Historical fiction.
I love it. It's one of my favorite, like, low-key euphorias is when you have a book you just can't put down.
Yep.
Like, it's such a wonderful feeling.
So that's the one I always recommend to people. I go, trust me, it sounds ridiculous, but it's brilliant.
I love it. And my final question for you, I feel sad almost bringing this to a close, but where can people find you if they've enjoyed this podcast and they're like, I want to connect with Ollie? Where's the best place?
So you can find me on Facebook as Oli Pettigrew. You can find me everywhere else as That Englishman in Texas. And if you enjoy movies, you can also follow my movie podcast, The United States of a Movie, where every week we try to find one movie to define each state in the United States. We've done 1 trip around the States. We're currently on our 2nd. It's a lot of fun. And we're watching a lot of bonkers fun movies. So if you're a cinephile, come along. And it's also if you like crap movies, come along, because we've watched a lot of those ones too.
Well, I'll stick a link to that stuff when we post this podcast. But Ollie, I cannot thank you enough for your time. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, it's been great. Honestly, if you want to come on United States of a Movie, we'll pick a state and we'll see what we can do.
All right, I'm in. Ollie, thank you so much for your time.
My absolute pleasure. We'll meet in the Londoner sometime.
Done. Thank you again to this week's guest, and I hope today's episode was as enjoyable for you as it was for me, and perhaps even inspired your next adventure. If you did enjoy the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can find more information at theoutdoorseyeducator.com or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Until next time, thank you so much for listening to the Outdoorsy Educator Podcast.